The Eagles kick off their preseason tonight versus the Baltimore Ravens, and with that, we're finally going to get to see a lot of the guys that we've been hearing so much about during training camp in an actual game, including guys like Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and many more rookies, including some undrafted guys that have been really impressive during camp. Plus, we could also potentially get some more clarity on the running back position, as after the Eagles' first official depth chart was released a few days ago, the confusion surrounding the running backs is at an all-time high, and speaking of that, we might actually have some shocking news on who the current favorite is to start at running back, and it's probably not who you would expect. So we're going to talk all about that in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. So as I said, the Eagles begin their preseason tonight versus the Baltimore Ravens, where we'll see the 2023 iteration of the Philadelphia Eagles in their first official game action of the new season. Now, of course, typically in the preseason, your starters aren't going to play very much, if at all, so that's probably the first thing on Eagles fans' minds as we get set for the team's first preseason action. Now, Ravens coach John Harbaugh already revealed that guys like Lamar Jackson and other bigger name Ravens starters won't suit up on Saturday night, but in the case of the Eagles, whether the starters are actually going to play or not during the first preseason game is still up in the air. As when Nick Sirianni was asked about it before practice on Thursday, he said he hadn't made a decision just yet. Now, my thoughts on that are this. Obviously, last year we saw the Eagles play their starters in their first preseason game versus the Jets for one series, and then that was pretty much it for the rest of the preseason, so I do think that we could see something similar to that this year. However, I do think it's also a lot more unlikely that Jalen Hurts plays because last year, obviously, we didn't know if Jalen Hurts was going to be our guy for the future moving forward, and I'm sure that the coaching staff thought that preseason reps for Hurts were a lot more valuable than they think that they are now because we know Hurts is our franchise guy. We already gave him the big contract, so I would expect them to play it a little bit safer, and I do think there's a good chance you don't see Hurts, but hey, you never know. I guess by the time this video is released, we might already know whether the starters will play or not. I mean, I certainly hope they do, at least for a series, because we'll get a brief glimpse of what we expect this team to look like this year, plus it'll only build excitement for the start of the regular season, but then after the starters inevitably get taken out, or if they don't play at all, that's when we're going to get to see a lot of these other guys who I think are going to be the most fun to watch throughout the preseason. Now, I do want to start with the running back position, because this is a position where there's so much uncertainty, and that's not because the players there are inadequate. The Eagles actually have a great running back room with a lot of different options, but that's just the problem, as the uncertainty comes from the fact that the backfield is just so crowded with so many different guys actually having a chance to have meaningful playing time, and we just don't know who's going to end up being the running back number one or how the snap count's going to look week in and week out. And because of the fact that the backfield is so crowded, there might actually be a few of these guys, despite them being so talented, that could be fighting for a roster spot this preseason. So once we get into the actual preseason games, I'll be curious to see who ends up starting at running back if the starters do in fact play, and also how much playing time each guy gets, how each guy is used, and also what kind of production each guy is able to have. I mean, all this together is going to help in trying to figure out how this running back room will shake out once the actual season rolls around. Now, very interestingly, some news actually came out the other day regarding the running backs and who the potential favorite to start is. I mean, I really think that all camp, everyone thought it was going to be DeAndre Swift. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype surrounding him ever since they got him in a trade from the Detroit Lions back during the draft, and you know, Swift is arguably the most talented guy out of all the Eagles running backs. Plus, he has an elite ability to catch the ball out of the backfield that's pretty unique for a running back to have, so I think the vast majority of NFL fans were assuming that the Eagles would end up starting Swift when week one rolls around, but after a few pieces of information came out recently, it's seeming more and more like the current favorite could be Kenneth Gainwell, with Elliott Shore-Parks revealing that, quote, Kenny Gainwell has the most touches among the running backs in camp by far, 40 touches. He also has by far the most carries with the first team offense with 21. Nobody else has more than 11. Gainwell also has 11 catches, which is second most. He might be RB1. Plus, John McMullen just a couple days ago on Jacob Sports said, quote, as of today, Kenny Gainwell is the lead back of the Philadelphia Eagles. And McMullen also noted that Swift kind of looks more like a third down back that's going to be used heavily in the passing game, but isn't necessarily going to be the feature guy that a lot of people expected him to be. So that's definitely interesting. I mean, I really like Kenneth Gainwell. I've said that before on this channel. I think he's a really good player. He's a guy who's taken advantage of every opportunity that he's had in this league so far. I loved what he was able to do in the playoffs last year, and I do think he has the ability to turn into a good dual threat back. I mean, he's able to run the ball, he's got good ball carrier vision, but he also is able to catch the ball out of the backfield if you need him to do that. So I don't mind if the Eagles want to start out the season with Kenny Gainwell as the starter, especially since according to reports, he has looked like the best back at training camp so far, and he's also been here for a couple seasons while Swift and Penny are both new to the team, plus Kenneth Gainwell is also under contract longer than both of these other guys. But if they do start Kenneth Gainwell, I just hope that they don't underutilize DeAndre Swift. I mean, he is an extremely talented player, and I think his receiving ability is special for a running back. Hopefully the Eagles would still utilize Swift heavily if they do end up starting Gainwell once the season rolls around, but maybe the reason it seems like the Eagles don't want to use Swift in that future role is because of his durability issues in the past, and maybe they figure that this is the best way to keep him healthy while also utilizing the other talent in the running back room. And maybe the same could be said for Rashaad Penny, who obviously has had plenty of injury issues in the past, and apparently it's been really hard to get a read on what the Eagles are envisioning for Penny this upcoming season, as ESPN noted that Penny got the second most total touches of Eagles backs during camp so far, but most of them have come with the third team, so that's definitely odd, and it makes you wonder what kind of role the Eagles envision Penny having this year. I mean, he's getting a lot of touches at camp, but why isn't it with the first team? I mean, I really don't know. I honestly think that this is still an open competition, which right now it seems like Kenneth Gainwell is winning, as like I said, according to many people, he seems like the best Eagles running back during training camp so far, but I still definitely also think that Swift and Penny are going to have an opportunity to earn the starting job. I think preseason is going to be a huge part of that, which is why it's going to be so interesting to watch Gainwell, Swift, and Penny during these games. But another Eagles running back who's going to be really interesting to watch during preseason is Trey Sermon, and he's a guy who I think a lot of people, coming into camp didn't really expect him to have a real shot of making the roster simply because of the amount of other talented running backs the Eagles had in that room, but Sermon has come out during training camp and been really impressive, and he apparently hasn't been used like a guy who the Eagles are expecting to let go when training camp comes to an end, as Elliott Short-Parks is saying that he's got as much first-team work as Rashaad Penny has, and he also has more carries and catches than both Penny and Boston Scott. So during the preseason, it'll definitely be interesting to see how Trey Sermon performs. I think he'll definitely get a lot of playing time because, frankly, he's still a guy that has to prove that he's worthy of a roster spot, but from what it sounds like at camp, he's performed well, and if he continues that into the preseason, the Eagles may have a really hard time letting him go. And I honestly think at this point, it's more likely than not that he ends up earning a roster spot with the Eagles by the time preseason ends. And who knows, maybe he'll even end up earning himself some playing time with this team in 2023. Now, someone else looking to earn their role on this team is K'Von Wallace, and not in the sense that he's trying to make the team, but in the sense that he's trying to secure a starting spot for the first time in his career. I mean, he's definitely made a good case during training camp. He's got a lot of first team reps at safety alongside Reed Blankenship, and he apparently has been really impressive. It seems like he's improved a lot from his rookie season. I think that the narrative around K'Von Wallace so far throughout his career is that he's been a disappointment, but it sounds like he's changing that narrative during camp. He's had some nice plays. He had an interception on Marcus Mariota, and he definitely has a very real chance to start for this team. And now during the preseason, this is where he can set himself apart from the other candidates if he performs well in these games. Now, I think Wallace's main competition for that starting safety spot is Terrell Edmunds, but someone else who's fighting for that safety spot opposite Reed Blankenship is rookie Sidney Brown, and he's going to be another really interesting player to watch during the preseason as well. Now, I definitely think that he has less of a chance to start than the other two guys that I mentioned, but if Brown comes out and really plays well during the preseason while the other guys in Edmunds and Wallace disappoint, who knows, maybe Brown could end up winning himself a starting job after all. Okay, I'd say that seems a little bit unlikely at this point, but it still is going to be very interesting to watch Brown. I mean, there's no doubt that he's going to get a lot of playing time, and with all the hype surrounding him coming out of training camp, it's going to be really fun to see what he can do. Now, in addition to Brown, there's a couple other rookies that have received a bunch of hype at training camp that are going to be arguably the most exciting guys to watch during these preseason games for the Eagles, and don't worry, we're going to get to those guys and much more, but just real quick here, I just want to say, if you are enjoying this video and want to see others like it coming in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, you've been consistently watching these videos, you're enjoying them, you love the Philadelphia Eagles, and you don't want to miss any training camp, preseason, or regular season coverage, make sure you fix that right now. Go down, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. I think that's a win-win for the both of us. Now, with that being said, let's get back into the video. Now, there are two guys in particular that everyone is excited to watch during the Eagles preseason, and one of them is rookie defensive tackle Jalen Carter, who has just been so impressive at training camp so far. I mean, it seems like almost every single practice he's making more headlines, whether it be for his impressive strength, the insane plays that he's made, or some of the claims that he's also made as well. It seems like Carter has been one of the clear standouts of Eagles training camp, and it also seems like he's only gotten better as time has gone on, as he's now earning first team reps with the defense, and it also seems like the opportunity to go up against the best offensive line with two future Hall of Famers on it has only made Carter better, and arguably the most impressive play that Carter has Eagles made all camp was against future Hall of Famer right tackle Lane Johnson, as he was able to push him all the way back to get a stop on DeAndre Swift in the backfield. Plus, on top of that, Jalen Carter has been able to get a bunch of sacks throughout camp as well, and his dominance throughout camp has got people wondering how the NFL let him fall all the way to number 9 where the Eagles could get him. So now he's going to get his first opportunity to put that dominance on display in an actual NFL game during this preseason, and who knows, maybe he gets his first sack in his first game versus the Ravens on Saturday night. And someone else who Eagles fans are hoping shows out in their first preseason game is rookie Nolan Smith, who also has been extremely impressive throughout camp so far, particularly rushing the passer off the edge, where he has made plenty of plays, getting a number of sacks throughout training camp. And the most impressive thing about Smith's game during camp, according to many reporters, is his insane speed and quickness off the edge. Plus, Smith has also been used in a number of different ways during practices, including at off-ball linebacker. And while yes, I do think that he needs to primarily be used as a pass rusher, it is great when you can have a player that is versatile enough to be used in multiple different ways, to be used as a pass rusher and as an off-ball linebacker. It's only a positive for your defense when you have players that are capable of doing multiple different things, and Nolan Smith is able to do just that. And now Smith is going to get a chance to show off his versatility as well as his insane pass rushing skills and speed in an actual preseason game, where it sounds like he's not going to hold anything back.
Man, if you ever walked off the field with an injury, anytime you go out there from practice to anything, I'm going balls to the wall. It don't matter preseason, practice, I'm giving it my all just because I remember that feeling in my heart that I got when I couldn't play another snap. Like most people they think it's a game, but man, if you really live it day in and day out and you walk off that field and knowing, man, I don't know if that's going to be my last snap, well, you'll go harder than you ever been.
I mean, right here is a prime example of why Philadelphia is going to absolutely love Nolan Smith, and he's already turning into a fan favorite, and I'm just so excited to see how he performs in his first preseason game. And another rookie that I'm particularly excited to watch during the preseason is undrafted wide receiver Joseph Ngata, who is potentially a hidden gem that the Eagles were able to pick up after the draft, as he's been really impressive throughout camp, to the point where he was even able to get some first team reps recently at practice. And really throughout the entire course of training camp, Ngata has made plays, with reporters saying that he has been the best of the Eagles wide receivers who aren't locks to make the roster, and he's also impressed to the point where he's got the attention of his teammates, including all-pro cornerback James Bradberry, who recently said this about Ngata.
The new guy Joe, the big physical receiver, I think he's similar to AJ. He might be a little bigger, and I think once he gets his confidence in and starts to learn the offense more, he'll start playing a lot faster.
So all this hype at camp has really gotten me excited to watch Ngata during the preseason, and I honestly think that as long as he comes out and plays decent during these games, he'll probably have wrapped himself up a roster spot when it's time to cut the roster down to 53. Now, someone else who will be looking to secure a roster spot this preseason is Mekhi Garner, the undrafted rookie cornerback who has flashed his physicality all camp, and he's been flying around making plays, making reporters believe that he should make this roster when it's all said and done. Now, that is going to be tough because the Eagles already have a great cornerback room, and there's only so many guys that can make the final cut. So Garner's best chance to make this roster will probably be the preseason, where he's definitely going to get a lot of playing time, and if he shows out, who knows, maybe he could end up earning himself a spot on the 53-man roster after all. Now, another Eagles cornerback who's going to be fun to watch during the preseason will be Josh Jobe, the second-year undrafted guy who apparently has become the top backup cornerback on the Eagles roster, with Zach Berman saying, quote, "Jobe is clearly the top reserve cornerback on the outside and continues to make plays in coverage. He was on the roster throughout last season, and I expect him to have an elevated role in 2023. And this is all true. Jobe has simply been fantastic during camp so far, recently having a practice where he recorded 3 pass breakups on Thursday. So it sounds like Jobe has really improved from last year, and he's also going to be another guy that's going to be really fun to watch during the preseason, as he'll definitely get a decent amount of playing time. And so will another cornerback in Kelee Ringo, who apparently has been solidifying himself as the other top backup cornerback on the Eagles roster alongside Josh Jobe. And just like Jobe, Ringo's going to get a good amount of playing time in the preseason as well, so with many people thinking that Ringo could be one of the steals of the draft, as he fell all the way to the 4th round where the Eagles got him, when many thought that he was potentially a 2nd round or maybe even late 1st round guy, he'll definitely be fascinating to watch during these games as well. Plus, then you have another positional battle to watch with the linebackers, as we still don't know who's going to end up starting alongside Nakobe Dean, whether that be Christian Elliss, Nicholas Morrow, Myles Jack, or Zach Cunningham. So those are going to be 4 guys that are really interesting to watch during preseason as well, because I think preseason is going to go a long way in determining who ends up starting alongside Dean next year. It's definitely going to be a really interesting storyline to watch. So yeah, as you can tell, there's going to be plenty of storylines to follow and players to watch when the Eagles kick off their preseason versus the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday night, and it's going to be super exciting to watch. Now, unfortunately, I will not be streaming this game, but I will be covering it with videos, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when those come out. Also, drop a like on this video if you did enjoy and want to show some support. And also, subscribe to the second channel, Philly Fan 21 Productions, so that you don't miss when my Eagles hype video for this upcoming season goes out. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. So again, make sure you subscribe to that channel as well. All future hype videos will be over there. And also, leave a comment down below on anything that I talked about in this video. Who are you most excited to watch during the Eagles preseason? Plus, if you want to watch another video talking about Jalen Carter's dominance at training camp and just other Eagles training camp news, you can go watch it right here. And now with all that being said, that's all I got for this one, guys. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.